Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Michi Mix Up. Today's video is going to be about two different sets of brushes from Sonia G. The first half of the video is going to be about the Hinoki brush set. I've had these brushes for some time. I've really gotten to use them. I'm ready now to tell you about these brushes or share my experience with these brushes, why I love them. And then the second half is going to be on the Lotus Set. The Lotus Set is coming back in stock in a matter of days. They will also be available individually. And I guess the time that I'm posting this video, I'll try to time it so that it's like maybe a day away or on the same day as the set is coming back. They actually sold out fairly quickly the first time around. They were also supposed to be limited edition, but because they sold out quickly and there was just so much request to bring it back, Sonia G did make it happen. So we'll talk about that because I've had many months now to use these brushes, and I really want to share with you guys which are my favorite, because if you're considering just picking up a handful, one or two, maybe this is going to be, you know, good guidance. If you're interested in seeing the dedicated video to the Lotus Set only, I will have a link to that video below. So going into the Hinoki set first, here we are. This set has two brushes. This bigger fluffy brush, and then this one here, actually both shapes of this set, these brushes, are not available or are not duplicated in any way in Sonia G's brush collection. This one in particular is actually pretty unique to my collection, and it's an interesting but very stylish and versatile little brush. I want to demonstrate how I use it for you guys. The set is called Hinoki because the handles are made up of cypress, and cypress has antimicrobial, it has like a citrus scent to it. It is considered to be a prized wood in Japan. So there is, you know, the cost of the material. The ferrule itself is also intricate. There's some additional details in here not found in her other brushes. You can see how there's like a waviness. This wavy design is on purpose. It's inspired by these cranes here, and you can see on both brushes there's some additional detail. And then the cranes, of course, Sonia G's favorite, maybe not spirit animal, but her favorite Japanese mythical creature. It does represent happiness, peace, and longevity. Yes, just very positive, calming. So the whole theme of this brush, with the cypress wood being that it's calming, and then the cranes being that it's, you know, longevity, this really does represent just happiness in general and being at peace with oneself or one's surroundings. That's how I'm interpreting what she wrote on her blog. So these two, I just want to hold up, let's go first with a bigger face brush here. I want to hold up some other bronzer brushes that I use because this is how I use this face brush. It can be used for powders and blush as well, but I've been using it mostly for bronzer because I find that the way it moves on the curves of the face, it really hugs it, is just really effective. When it comes to blush, there's some other brushes I tend to gravitate towards too, so that's why. So I'm holding up here is Sonia G's Worker Fan from her Sky face set. And the two are not similar. I mean, sure, they both kind of fan out, but you can see the length of the bristles, the way that they're packed together is just very different. This, I would say, it gets the job done, doing the same thing as this brush, but I think it's possibly more effective when you want to do a concentration of contour. But I will say this is the better buffer of the two. This will get the job done. You know, this is still a quality brush, but this is going to do a better job. Because this is made up of saikoho goat hair, so it's natural hairs, it is very soft, very silky to the touch, and you mean that alone, it's very pleasant to use. Another thing about the handle is Typically, from what I understand, Sonia G is just talking about how cypress wood is not coated typically, because you want to be able to see the grain of the wood. And of course, in bigger items like cutting boards, it has the scent that comes out. I actually have a cutting board made up of Hinoki, and it's made in Japan. So when we first got it in the mail, it's just like, whoa, this wood scent. It dissipates over time as you wash it, but it's good to know, like when she referenced that in her blog, I'm like, yes, that's exactly, you know, the scent I have in mind. So this is lightly coated, and it has a matte finish, and it feels matte to the touch. It's just to protect the wood, but these are delicate items, and they are more delicate than, say, you know, her Sky Face set, Sky Eye set, and perhaps the Lotus set as well, because again, natural wood and just has like a minimal matte coating. These ferrules too are a little bit different from her other ones, and so truly a collector's item. These were designed with collectors in mind. So let's get into the demo here with the bronzer. You can use the tip here or the edge to contour, and then turn it and then buff. So I'm first actually going to go into the lighter bronzer. I'm using Chantecaille's Real Bronze here in the shade Serena, and I'm interested, so I'm just gonna do this. This is Big Gelée, by the way, so it's not grabbing too much product, but should be just enough for these parts here. So I'm just doing some really light contouring, warming up the complexion a bit. And as you can see, the brush just picks up, you know, a very light amount. So I have bronzer, you can see it's a little bit deeper than the left side, which I have nothing, no bronzer on. And so because of how fluffy it is, it's not too dense, but still dense enough to do a good job buffing. It's very forgiving. So if you have a very heavy bronzer or very pigmented bronzer, or one that is, this is Big Gelée, so let me show you one that's powder. The Chanel one, the oversized bronzer, is powder. It's still very forgiving because it buffs it away, it buffs the product away so well that if there's any excess, you can buff and realize, oh, okay, I've got too much on, dab it away, and then go back in for a second application. So let me go back in for one more application here. Just gonna warm the complexion a little bit more. And so I'm pretty happy with this. I wouldn't want it any deeper. Now, let me go into the other side here, and then we're gonna try some contouring using the edge of the brush. And for contour, I'm gonna use Chantecaille's Real Bronze in the shade Goya, and I will use the edge of this brush. And I've actually never done this before, but you can see it's much redder than Serena. And because I haven't done this before, I'm just gonna tap off some excess here. Typically for contour, I do use this just because it's less surface area, more concentrated, but using this to buff a very concentrated contour is also tougher, takes more time to do it. So we're gonna put this one to the test here. So you guys can see I've got slightly deeper pigment, and let's just apply some on the, whatever's on the brush on the left side as well. Okay, so you guys see that. And now I'm gonna go in, turn it on the head again to buff out. So there you have the contour effect. I think it did a pretty good job depositing it, just using the edge of the brush. It probably covered like a little bit more area than I wanted to, just because, you know, this is a fluffier and it's gonna touch more, it's gonna have more contact, where versus, you know, if I really want to limit, I can also use the edge of this fan brush and it's gonna be like a slimmer area, or more narrow. The other bronzer brush that I enjoy is from Rephr. This is number 22 here. Number 22 is strictly, well, not strictly bronzer, but it is meant to cover a large area in a quick amount of time, just makes easy work. So I do actually use this for warming the complexion very quickly and just be on my way. It also is effective at buffing. If I had to compare these two, even though they're different shapes, they're a lot different from each other, I would say probably in terms of buffing, they both make quick work of it, even though these bristles are longer and the shape is different. They're also packed differently. And this will give you more precision. And I find that as it's moving along the curves of my face, it's hugging it. It's actually not losing contact at any point. So this is a major difference in this brush that also buffs just as well as this, whereas this brush, you can see you can't quite turn it as easily. And I mean, these are split second differences. They're not really anything that would, you know, knock this brush down, but I think this one has the ability to be a contour brush, be very effective at buffing. It's also extremely soft, whereas this is more like speed and getting and covering a larger area and just getting things done in a very speedy way. It doesn't give you the definition, or it doesn't give you as much control. For the slanted brush here, this is so unique, and it does, I think she describes it like it reminds her of a finger, or that's how she describes it, which I would agree. I've been using it only to apply highlighter, but I would like to try to apply some contour to my nose with it. I'm gonna apply the highlighter first, wipe it clean as much as I can, and then go in and do some contouring here. This brush can be used for blush, for powder in smaller areas on the face, and then highlight. The comparisons that I have in mind is really not that close. I mean, there's one that might look close, but they're actually quite different from each other. So just let me hold up those two brushes. So I have here, this is the Hinoki brush, this is the mini cheek, and then this is the detail brush. Now these two might be similar because they're both slanted, but they feel very different. This is blunt to the touch, whereas this is soft and has more give, but it's also packed in such a way that it still has a lot of control. And I feel that between the two, this is going to be more forgiving. So it's great for very pigmented blush. She did say you could use it as setting powder under the eyes, which I have not tried because, again, I've been using it for highlighter. Let me go into this Dior Luminizer here, Pink Glow. And I don't know if you can see the product just right at the tips of the bristles here. Just making sure I don't have too much, but even if you do, it's just very forgiving. And I would just kind of go along this way. You can tap it on as well and then diffuse, but you can see how smooth that went on. So nothing on this side, and then this is with Pink Glow, very smooth. It's also, once again, very forgiving because it's just fluffy and airy. So that is with highlighter applied. You can definitely see it. It feels, once again, it's so soft, it feels really great. Let me go back in and do the contouring now. For the nose, I'm not looking for anything too exciting here, so I am going back to Serena, the lighter of the two Chantecaille bronzers. And I'm just making sure I have enough pigment wiping off some excess, and I'm just going to do this. This is not the brush doing that. I do have like some pigment right here, and sometimes what happens is when I add like a little bit of contour, it just like makes it more apparent. So that is not because of the brush or, you know, some oddly like extra product right on the brush. So this is with the contour added. This side I don't have anything. You can see the difference here. I don't know that this is gonna be my go-to for nose contouring, but I know I can get the job done with it. I do think it looks nice. I do think the contouring adds to more dimension, and I do think it looks nice. You can also use this to add contour and apply it onto the cheek like that and then buff out. So overall, I think these two brushes, I am shocked that they are still in stock, considering the materials, how these are wooden, entirely handcrafted by artisans, and just generally the quality of the material. It's $120 for both brushes. I would not be surprised if other brands sold this brush itself for alone for $120, just because there's been price increases, and we've seen that in everything, but there's been price increases. So kind of shocking they're still available. And if you are a collector of Fude, you probably already have a set, and maybe you bought a backup set as well. But if you're looking for something, you know, either to treat yourself, something a little bit special, I do recommend these. Again, shocking they're available, but she will not bring these back once they're sold out. What else about the Hinoki brushes? She does recommend, Sonia G does recommend that if you want to fully utilize the shape these brushes were designed and meant to be used, to wash them before you start using them. And when you wash them, the thing to pay attention to is to make sure you avoid getting water or too much water in this area, because it is glue that holds or binds the bristles to the ferrule. And then for drying, I think once you just wipe them clean, you can set it on the table, and some people have brush holders where you can just leave them upside down like this. I don't have one of those holders, and my brushes, you know, so far, knock on wood, have done fine, but I do watch out and just make sure I don't get too much moisture around here. And for brush storage, especially the wooden handles, you just want to put it in a place where there's not too much humidity and that it's not in direct sunlight. All right, so moving on to the Lotus Set. The Lotus Set is stunning because of the shapes and the color of the handles, the ferrule. This like beautiful purple, and it's a gradient, goes from white, pink, down to purple and like a deep, deep plum or a deep purple color. The set has 3 face brushes and 3 eye brushes. It is also, is it her first set? I would say it's her first set that has these tapered handles that comes with 5 brushes instead of 6. These are supposed to be, the set was supposed to be limited edition, but because of demand, she made it possible and brought it back. I'll talk a little bit about each brush, and then we'll get right into my favorite ones. The first brush here is the base brush, and as the name implies, it is meant to apply base products like foundation and concealer. It is made up of natural and synthetic fibers like her Fusion set. So her Fusion set, and this is the classic base here, same type of combos of bristles, synthetic plus natural. And it is meant to really effectively move and buff out any foundation. I much prefer the shapes from her Fusion brushes than the fan brush. I've used this a couple of times to apply foundation, and it might just be because of the shape. I end up always just using these two from the Fusion set. This is the Jumbo and this is the Classic. And the Classic, I tend to do that. Sometimes in areas I might do this. With the Jumbo, just maybe longer streaks here. It's very even. This is also even, but I just like how these two feel. But if you are considering the set and you don't have the Fusion set, I think this is great to try out a new kind of bristle combination that Sonia G has released. And I don't think you'll be upset. I think you'll enjoy this because it gives you another option to use for cream or liquid complexion products. Then there is the detail brush that we saw a moment ago. I do think I prefer the detail brush for adding contour here over the Hinoki brush. It can also be used for blush. For pigmented blush, I think the Hinoki brush is going to do a better job because this is not gonna, that brush really buffs out really well, just like the bigger counterpart from the set. I think this is like, it's okay. I've used it for highlighter and I just like how the Hinoki brush feels in comparison. So this is probably gonna stay as a kind of bridge or side, bridge of the nose to the side, contour and possibly to buff out. That's how we continue to use this brush for. This is the cheek brush, a very soft brush. As you can see, I continuously use this to apply blush. It buffs blush pretty well, but it's mostly the soft application that I really enjoy from it. You can buff out like this, but it just takes a little bit longer. If I am applying something very pigmented, I don't actually gravitate towards this. If it's something very pigmented, I probably use the Rephr 40. It's slanted here, so I can just tap it and see how I like it. If it's too much, just get rid of the excess on a fiber towel, microfiber towel, and then go back in. This one here, I almost use it exclusively for Suku's melting powder blushes. They tend to be on the lighter side. They still have good pigment. I just think it's very elegant to use this brush and to apply those products. And then for the last three, these are the eye brushes. The worker brush, very, very versatile. This brush I use, or I can use it as to buff out eyeshadow and just use kind of like either this way or at this angle here and just get a little bit more of a tapered wing-like shape if I wanted to, or I can just turn it here and move the product up into the crease to give me more definition. I can use it because it's dense enough. It has enough give to really diffuse the ways that I just described, but it's also dense enough that I could use it to apply eyeshadow all over the lid. So very versatile, this worker brush. There's also the builder brush here. This I like to use as powdered, or for powder products, as an eyeliner, and then I can also use it under the eye. Again, this has like, it's just very interesting between these two. It is very soft, so comfortable to use, but it's dense enough to do those very specific jobs and give you more precision if you wanted to. But I can also use this to actually put more color into this outer area here to give me more definition. Unless it's too much product or very pigmented, I don't need to go back in with this brush. I can to buff out. Like right now you can see I'm just using what's on the brush, just adding a little bit more pigment definition, and it still looks diffuse. It's not like I messed anything up. So I love how easy this is to use. The last brush is the soft definer. The soft definer, as the name implies, is a very soft brush. It can be used for inner corner highlight. It can be used for under the eyes, which is what I did for today's look. You can use it to define above the lash line. I much prefer this because if I'm doing that, I'm looking for a more dramatic effect. I'm looking for more product depositing in that area. You can go in with this to diffuse and soften it up, but it's so small that I just think it's more suitable for like in a corner in these areas here. So when it comes to my favorite brushes from this set, it's going to be these four, but the number one is the worker brush because of the versatility. It's just amazing when I think about it. Has the right amount of density to give you precision and control, but it's fluffy enough, and the bristles, the hairs are long enough to also be like a buffing brush for eyeshadow. So I love that. And then followed by this soft definer. These are very delicate areas here, and everything else that I have that would go well or can do the job of this brush, this is by far the softest, and it does pick up a good amount of product. The other brush that I use often just for like the inner corner is going to be the Rephr 03. This one here just has more control and definition in comparison, and because you can see, if I want to cover more area, like right under here, I could just do this. And if I wanted more precision, I just turn it on the head a little bit more. This could do both, but it doesn't have the same area coverage, and it's not quite as soft. So that's how I would compare the two. And then finally, the cheek brush. I love face brushes, and the cheek brush is excellent. I love it as much as I love my Rephr 04. I just use it for different products, just depends what I'm trying to do. So if I had to get a backup of any of these brushes, I'm going to first start with my worker brush, and then probably the soft definer, and finally the cheek brush here. Oh, I realized that I didn't even talk about the builder. Whoopsies. Okay, so this is the builder. The builder is, once again, nice and soft, but gives you precision. I do have 02 from Rephr, very similar. The bristles here are longer, and you do get more area coverage actually, but I use them almost interchangeably. So this would probably be, even though it's my favorite of the set, it would probably be the last one that I would get a backup or a double, another one of, because I have the Rephr brush here. All right, thank you guys for watching. Let me know below if you have further questions about the Hinoki set or the Lotus set. I'll try my best to answer your questions. I absolutely think these brushes are lovely. As for the Lotus set, if I had to pick again, I would get it as a set because it's beautiful. I mean, the colors are stunning. The design details are fantastic. I am a Fude collector, not a very big collector, but I do select, and I feel like this is great to have in my collection. I will see you guys again very soon. Hopefully there's going to be more brush content coming up in the future. Bye.